Hey, hey! What's happening, everyone? It's Sunday? You know what that means. Time for another jam-packed ABW right here on YouTube. I am the old school AB, being joined once again by the bard of the boiler room, the deacon of destrucity, the pontiff of pain himself, the one and only Kind Man. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, especially with this nice piece of gold on my right shoulder.
You couldn't waste an opportunity to rub it right in, could you?
Well,
Unreal.
It's back home.
Yeah, that's right, folks. I lost, and I now have to eat my crow.
Well, you still have a few more slashes on the back of this belt than I do. So
Yeah. That's because I'm the all-time
you're still
greatest.
in the lead.
I'm the GOAT, baby.
Yeah.
I'm the GOAT of wrestling predictions. I am super glad to have everyone here, and welcome for those of you who are joining us. I want to do something crazy this week. I want to jump right in. We've got a great show for you guys today. We've got Kind Man's top 5 high flyers of all time, which I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to end us on a fantastically happy note for me, I'm sure. But I want to get right into this, and I know I've been teasing this for a long time. The AEW State of the Union address. I don't know how else to put it, really. It's kind of funky. I'll have to give you guys a quick history. 405 years ago, a new North American wrestling promotion was born. Its parents were the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes. And you also might want to throw Tony Khan in there too. And all 4 of those previously mentioned wrestlers EVP'd their way to a nice payday while giving all their pals jobs. Hence AEW was born. And they put on pretty good matches. And they gave us fans an alternative to that putrid, gelatinous pile of camel vomit known as WWE. At least with Vince at the helm, right? And for a while that was good enough. I was happy. I quit watching WWE altogether. I didn't watch one single second of WWE. I was that turned off on it. I was disgusted with it at the time. I couldn't take it. I was so sick and tired of the bait and switch tactics, the questionable booking, the terrible gimmicks. I just couldn't do it. So, to save ourselves a lot of time, let's fast forward, because I've given you all the pertinent information you need to know. We'll fast forward to 2001, where it seemed like the wrestling fans all over the world were going to have their prayers answered. After 7 long years of CM Punk being away, we would finally see the return of Punk to a professional wrestling ring, and for a while, it looked like AEW had a legitimate shot at turning their product into a legitimate mainstream company by hiring this huge name to a lucrative contract. It was such a big deal, in fact, that Tony Khan sold out the United Center in Chicago and helped hype that event to the moon. And it worked, because the fans genuinely loved and missed CM Punk, yours truly included. And it made a magical moment, because if you haven't seen it, I strongly urge you to go out and watch it. It's one of the greatest feel-good moments of professional wrestling of all time. And I think it sets the stage for what comes next, especially when you see what happened in his wake. Because this, ladies and gentlemen, is where the fractures begin. And while yes, a lot of it has to do with CM Punk, it has just as much to do with poor decisions, lack of leadership, being out of touch with your locker room and how best to use them, from about half of your impulse hires to your big gets that went over like a popcorn fart in church. I'm looking at Edge and Mercedes Moné specifically. It's crazy to me to think that in 2001, just 3 years ago, he had both Cody Rhodes and CM Punk on his roster. And he squandered both opportunities. The AEW crowd started booing Cody terribly because he was booked like shit. It was so much that he was becoming like the John Cena of AEW. I mean, it was crazy, the amount of heat he would get from that crowd. And wrongly so, because the fans thought he was too, and I mean this with all sincerity, too WWE. And that's true. He was. If you look at the way he performed like a WWE performer. His entrance, his styling, and that's easy to see because he was trained at the Performance Center. He's a WWE guy. For as much as people want to call him the king of the indies, he's not. He's a WWE made, born and bred guy, through and through. No different than anybody else that's come down. Roman Reigns, same thing. So,
Except he's interesting.
Yeah, except he's interesting, right? It's crazy to think that Tony Khan, once upon a time, had both Cody Rhodes and CM Punk on his roster. He squandered both of them. The fans he just didn't like Cody's shtick anymore. I think Cody's frustration led to him leaving AEW. I think he butted heads with Tony Khan. We're not really sure why he did yet. He's never really came out and explicitly said or stated details about why he's quit, but you could take a guess. You could take a good educated guess and look at the history of things and look at the way things have shaped up and the way things have happened. And it's easy to see, for me at least. I think that it's easy. I think he butted heads with Tony Khan way too many times. He took his EVP status, seriously and literally, and Tony Khan basically smacked his ass down for it. But I digress. I want to get back to Punk for a little bit. I think he gets more heat in a lot of these cases because he's the only one willing to call it like he sees it in public, but more on that later. Like I said, this is a State of the Union address, not a history lesson. And I think I want to offer some more context before we start heading down this pipeline because I think it's needed. And Kai Man, if you have any questions, hop in at any time, interrupt me, stop me, kill me, do what you got to do, and I will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, let me start with just one.
Sure.
So we talk about the Young Bucks, Cody, the four people involved as the EVPs that created this.
Right.
Is Tony Khan just the money? Like, what is Tony Khan?
He's the money mark, baby.
Okay. All right.
And you might as well call him that. I mean, money mark is sort of a derogatory term. See also Dixie Carter. But, I mean, it's not always a bad thing to be a money mark, right? He wanted nothing more on this earth than to start a professional wrestling company and be a booker. And guess what? He's well within his rights to do that. I want him to do that because I said it before, I want a good second company in this country that I can watch, an alternative, so to speak. I think alternatives help each product be better. So why wouldn't you want that? It's just silly to think, Anyways, I'm getting. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Okay. But let's take a look at some of the facts, right? Ticket sales and gates are way down. These are smaller arenas, and they're only about half full. If you want proof of that, look at the camera angles and the shots they use in their television programs. They're careful to hide the empty seats. But trust you me, they are there. And by the way, this isn't anything you have to look at television to prove to yourself. This is public information. All you have to do is go out there and look at the ticket sales versus capacity, look at the setup for how many tickets they were going to sell, and boom, do the math. Television ratings are down. Viewership is on the decline. And I think that goes hand in hand with smaller arenas and poor ticket sales. Nobody wants to see a product that sucks.
And by the way, as far as filling the arenas, I see this when I go to like look at tickets when WWE or AEW or whatever is in my area.
Right.
The side of the arena that is in the main broadcast feed.
Right.
First of all, the tickets are more expensive and they're gone first.
Yes.
So when you look at these arenas and you think they're full, remember they're basically in that main camera angle showing the most desirable tickets in that shop.
Yeah.
So those are full. People want to be on TV with their stupid "I poop too much" signs and stuff like that.
I like those signs, by the way. Keep them coming. I love those signs. But no, television ratings are down. Viewership is on the decline. The most recent episode of Dynamite being the exception, and we'll get into why in just a minute. Tony Khan is spending big money to have former WWE stars on his roster. He's also going after big stars in Japan, like Okada and Will Ospreay. In two of those cases, he fumbled the ball big time because he overestimated stars like Mercedes Moné. He overestimated her value as a draw. Guess what? She's not a draw. She's never drawn anything. She's not relatable or likable, and she's being presented as a face, and she hasn't drawn anything. Okada, he can have good matches, but I feel like the whole roster is capable of having good matches. So what's the point of having another Japanese guy with blonde hair having good matches? I think the average American wrestling fan, and I'm going to sound like, a dirty word here. I'm going to use a dirty word. I'm going to sound like Vince Russo, but it's true. The American wrestling fan doesn't watch Japanese wrestling. They don't have any idea who these guys are. Case in point, Kind Man, did you have any clue who Okada was before you saw AEW?
No.
Perfect.
And by the way, can I ask you another question? Why are people on the AEW roster winning championships in Japan? Can you please explain that to me? I mean,
because AEW wrestlers don't have an exclusive contract to AEW. They can work elsewhere, and they can take bookings in New Japan, or in Moxley's case, that was part of his contract. He could take bookings anywhere, GCW, New Japan. If they would have him, he could take bookings in WWE, I'm sure. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I may be wrong on that. But I know that Mox has a contract that lets him go. A lot of the guys do. Bryan Danielson does. Whether they choose to exercise it or not is a different story. A lot of the underneath guys will work the indie dates until they get called up to AEW, and that helps kind of subsidize their income a little bit. But
I don't think we're going to be seeing like Mox come back to, go to AEW Dynamite like with the WWE Intercontinental Championship around his shoulder.
No, but he'll show up with the IWGP title next week.
Right.
Good grief almighty. But no, I mean, the average wrestling fan does not watch or care, really, about Japanese wrestling. And my point is, it's not the wrestling fans Tony Khan has to go after. Those are the ones that are filling his seats in his arena. Those are the ones who are watching his television program. He wants to go after the casuals. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Well, I think that's always for any sport. That is the goal. How do we hook the people we don't have? Because in sports, whether it's hockey, wrestling,
right,
whatever, the diehards always show.
Right. You can't count on that as being So you're totally right. I guess I don't know. Asking a national audience to swallow this guy is a huge deal is a big ask for the casual fans. That's the point I'm trying to get at, right? And if we're being honest, that's the fan base they're still losing. The casuals, the crowds, what's left of them. God dang. And speaking of Edge, I thought he cooled off very quickly in AEW. Once the initial shock of him coming in wore off, he just became another guy. He's the TNT champion. Okay, great. You know what I mean? And then Mercedes Moné came in and said, "Hold my Cosmo." Moné came into a lot of fanfare. I mean, a lot. She came into an equitable amount of fanfare as CM Punk did. In fact, it was just a copy and paste job. He did the exact same thing for CM Punk's debut as he did for Mercedes Moné's debut. And he barely sold out the Boston Garden for her debut. But can anyone tell me which company she drew the most money for and why? Time in. Looking at you, bud.
I don't know.
WWE.
Yeah, well.
Of course. How could it have been? Because she had the WWE's promotional machine behind her at all times. Now that she doesn't have that, she's floundering on her own. She is not interested. She has not drawn a dime anywhere. And it boggles the mind that he's fixated on these former WWE stars that aren't helping his roster, that aren't helping his program. All of these things, play a role or a factor in the bigger issue, which is, and I think we've alluded to it in many different ways and just never outright said it, but Tony Khan isn't running a wrestling promotion. He's not taking responsibility for his actions or his decisions, and this is where CM Punk comes back into the picture, because that wonderful, beautiful moment that all of us fans have when Punk came back, would be juxtaposed by the damage that he would leave after his firing. And what led to his firing? Not one thing specifically, like Tony Khan will let you believe, but a series of incidents, both backstage and on camera, that led to what is now known as Brawl Out. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. Have you, kind man, have you ever heard that term? Okay.
No.
It's going to be a fun day for you then. Months before All Out in 2022, CM Punk would work a program with then AEW World Champion Hangman Adam Page. During one of those Hangman promos in their world title feud, Hangman made some insider remarks and commented on how CM Punk was a cancer to the industry and the locker room. Now, bear in mind that at the time, both Hangman and Punk were supposed to be baby faces. And as history will show, Hangman was the wrong one to go into business for himself somehow. He avoided any punishment for any of this, and that it still boggles my mind how he squeaked through here, squeaky clean, like his ass is made of Teflon or something. But the reason that Hangman cut this promo, you might ask? Because the Hangman and the Bucks thought that Punk had gotten one of their friends, who was actually Punk's former best friend, Colt Cabana, demoted to ROH, because Punk supposedly had a problem being in the same locker room as him. Or at least that's the going story. And none of that is true, by the way. Right? I just want to get this out there. This is all public record. In the match with Hangman, Punk defeated Hangman for the world title. And this match he'd be injured in, he would tear his triceps, sound familiar? And he would later need to relinquish his title. But this night is infamous not for him winning the championship title. All Out was the night for the media scrum pipe bomb, or as it's now known, the Brawl Out situation. And you can watch this on YouTube. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal. You know, CM Punk is sitting right next to Tony Khan and airing his grievances about the locker room, about the Bucks, about Hangman Page, about Colt Cabana. He's taking everybody to task. It's actually pretty interesting. Of which, after the fact, you know, he basically told the camera and said, if anybody has a problem with anything that I do, all you ever had to do was come and knock on my door and let me know, and I'll be happy to discuss that with you. And he did it in sort of a dickish way, because he's CM Punk and he doesn't know any other way to be. But that pissed off the Bucks. And they went down there and kicked his door down. Kicked the door to his locker room down. Of course, Punk had his dog with him. That set his dog off. You know, Ace Steel, his trainer, and his wife are in there. A brawl ensues. The door flings open. CM Punk doesn't know what's happening. He asks him, what the hell are you doing in here? Because now it's not exactly a good time, right? And, let me see if I can remember exactly what happened. Kenny Omega got his arm bitten by Ace Steel. Nick Jackson got knocked out with a single punch. CM Punk knocked his ass right out. Steel chairs were thrown at Mac Jackson's head. Larry, CM Punk's dog, wound up having to go to the vet because some teeth got knocked out. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. And by the way...
And non-scripted.
Yeah, this is non-scripted. This was a real legitimate backstage fight. They all had, yeah. So, to save for time, you know, I'll just say that this led to both parties being suspended, with everyone losing their respective championships. Earlier that night, the Young Bucks won the inaugural Trios Championships with Omega. They were stripped of their titles. Punk was stripped of their titles. They all had tournaments. Everybody went on with their lives until Punk came back. And I'm going to fast forward a bit here because it's important to note a couple things. Tony still didn't fix the issue and let it fester. Didn't fix the problem between the Bucks and Punk. And Punk didn't necessarily want to come back to a locker room with these, lack of a better word, clowns. Because why would you? I don't want to come back to work with that crap. And Tony Khan had this great idea about, I'm going to put a new show on television. We're going to call it Collision. And it's going to be great. And the only way that from what I understand, the only way it was ever going to get off the ground is if Punk was on it. Because David Zaslav and Turner requested it. In fact, he cut a promo on it. CM Punk called himself One Bill Phil because he landed $1 billion deal for Tony Khan to get a new show on the air, as long as he was a part of it, and was a part of it for about 3 weeks. I mean, it was longer than that. I suppose about 2 months, right? Um, let's fast forward to there's still animosity. The Bucks are hanging out on one side of the locker room. Punk and his camp were hanging out on the other side of the locker room, and the roster, I'm tongue-tied. The roster they were going to do for Collision was a great roster. It was Punk, it was Miro, it was House of Black, it was FTR, it was Thunder Rosa. It was a great lineup of talent. I mean, I would put that roster up against anything. And then All In happened. And that brings us to, recent times, where Ariel Helwani had a interview with CM Punk and asked him about all of these things, these legitimate things that happened backstage in AEW. And what you saw is what you saw. Funny enough, when they advertised Collision, I thought to myself, that's going to be the best show in the fucking world. And it just, I don't know why it didn't materialize that way. Probably because they didn't have their star. But no.
Talent.
What's up?
Talent helps.
Yeah, talent definitely helps. So this would lead to a match that Jack Perry, aka Jungle Boy, would later have on Collision. He wanted to go through real glass, automobile glass, on one of his matches, and everybody told him it was a bad idea. So much so that Tony Schiavone, of all people, walked up to Punk in the back of the locker room and said, "I don't want this kid to hurt himself going through the glass. Will you please talk to him and let him know this is a really, really bad idea?" And that's what Punk did. He walked up to him and said, "We don't do that kind of crap here. If you want to hurl yourself through the glass, go do that shit on Wednesday night." And for whatever reason, the glass spot wasn't done. I guess he listened, but he did it begrudgingly. He did it like a little smartass, a little punk. So this miffed off Jungle Boy, who is real life pals with the Bucks, go figure, and that didn't ease any tensions. And finally, we fast forward to All In at Wembley Stadium, where you saw the backstage footage. But I don't know, did you order All In? Time in? Did you see that show?
I did not.
You did not. Okay. So in the pre-card match was Jungle Boy. I can't remember who was wrestling, but there was a spot that they did on the stage where Jungle Boy did a suplex, through windshield glass, and he stood up and he looked at the camera and he mugged at it and he said, "Yeah, see, real glass, cry me a river," or something to that effect. He's being a smartass. And so, when he came back to the back, CM Punk asked him, "What the hell was that shit? Why do you got to do all this stupid internet shit?" As he said on the Ariel Helwani interview. And in fact, if you match some of that up, I think somebody online did it already. You match Punk's interview up with Ariel Helwani's, with the CCTV footage. It lines up. Punk is telling you the truth as to what happened in that fucking incident. So this is where we are. This is the crux of the issue. And now we come to modern day, right? If you're still with us, folks, here's the summary. Once upon a time, I loved AEW. I loved it because it provided a very real alternative to WWE when Vince ran it. Tony Khan has the resources to be able to make his product legitimately contend with other promotions, including WWE. He has the stars, he has the talent, he has the right people backstage, he has the quality production being put on 5 hours a week on Turner stations, and he's fucking it up because he has a grudge against CM Punk, because CM Punk said mean, hurtful things. I think he's upset that he lost both Punk and Cody, especially seeing how the two of them are the biggest stars in the world right now. And he could have had him. He mismanaged both situations. What was that? What was that?
He did have him.
He did.
Yeah.
He didn't have to air the CCTV footage. That was petty. That was stupid. It was counterproductive.
It was useless.
It was useless.
It didn't do any. There was no freaking sound.
No, exactly. There was no context.
Who can't? Okay, so there are people arguing. We have no idea what they're. I mean,
right.
You just said what they were arguing about, but like in watching the video, you're just sitting there going, "Wait, did they think this was like a gotcha on CM Punk?" Because
yeah, they do.
It doesn't say anything bad about CM Punk.
No.
Because you don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
It says
Can
that
I
he
ask-
threw the first
Can I ask
punch.
another question?
Yeah,
on
yeah, by all
Khan?
means. Yeah.
Where did he make his money?
Where did who make his money?
Tony Khan. Why was he
Oh,
successful
God.
enough to be the money guy here?
His dad is the owner. He owns like NFL teams and shit.
Oh,
Tony Khan's
okay.
dad is like the owner of
So
the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Trust fund.
Yeah.
Trust fund.
Yeah. He's like I said,
Oh,
he's a
okay.
money mark. He's a money mark.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't know where his money came from.
Oh
That's
yeah.
all.
Like I said, see also Dixie Carter. You're not familiar with that at all. TNA. You never watched TNA at all.
Well, no, I used to watch TNA.
Did you? Okay, so you probably know who Dixie Carter. Do you know who Dixie Carter is? She was the head of TNA. She
Yes.
was a money mark. Okay, yeah.
I watched that one because I love Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
So I I started watching TNA back in the day.
So basically, any of this crap didn't have to happen. They didn't have to air the CCTV footage. He didn't have to have Edge go out and cut a promo on Punk. There's no reason for that. He didn't have to have Will Ospreay go out there and throw shade at Triple H. All this insider crap. Nobody knows about it. Nobody cares about it. This last Dynamite was absolutely atrocious. Rampage wasn't much better, and Collision was meh. And I didn't even see Battle of the Belts yet. From what I understand, it didn't feature any AEW title defenses. It was all Ring of Honor.
I saw part of it, but it was late. Yeah. Surprised it didn't feature some Japanese belts.
Well, wait till next week.
And by the way, one thing we do know is Mox will start off the show
Yeah.
every single time. That guy's
Well,
the
I'd
first-
rather that happen. I'd rather he start the show off with a good match.
Well, no, but they a lot of times in AEW, I made this comment to you in the past, is less so recently. But when I first started watching it, it was like the matches got worse as the night went on.
Yeah.
Like the best match was first. It was
Yeah.
like the main event was first, and then you just get Doo-Doo Man versus, some jobber in the main event. It's like, what?
Right.
Like, are they just backwards? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. So, yeah, they tried to be an alternative to WWE, and they don't know how to do it right. Which leads me to my next statement. Please, between everything, look, they don't need all this crap. Did you hear about the stipulation they were going to add to the Bucks versus? And that's what they tried to do. They tried to put the CCTV footage in as fodder for the FTR versus Bucks match. They don't need it. It's already a good enough match. Who's the best team in the world?
Yeah.
My God, let it work. Let it be. It doesn't need.
I didn't even understand the tie-in to the FTR with the argument with the Bucks in the what does the footage have to do with? I don't know.
Because FTR and CM Punk are legitimately friends. This is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
They're trying too hard to shoot brother all over the
Yeah.
place, and it just looks like it just looks terrible. It's crap. It's bush league. It's second rate. It's terrible. Please,
Mean
Tony.
Girl. Mean
Yeah.
Girls.
Yeah. I mean, listen, between the suck-ass intermediate cool-down from debuting stars, the overestimation of star power, assumptions on behalf of the audience you're going for, which is the casual fan, because only diehards like me are watching the shows now, please, Tony Khan, pull your head out of your fucking ass. All this shit makes your company look second-rate and bush league, and I want a real, good alternative to WWE programming. Not that I think I need it anymore. WWE has rapidly improved, and now I guess it's AEW's time to suck.
Well, maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Is, you know what I mean? That's a bigger problem. That now, when you maybe do have a better alternative, is not the time where you want to shit on your brand.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the equation, and I'll spill it out just the way that more fans at the shows mean more people watching at home. That means you get bigger gates, better sponsorships, and more leverage when it comes time to renegotiate your television and pay-per-view deals. And you can't do any of that if your creative sucks and your TV product sucks and you're not willing to run your company. Hire me.
Just creating, trying to get all caught up in a pissing match is what it sounds like.
I know that they are.
Yeah, no, that's what I
Hire
mean.
me. I'll fix your company lickety split. I won't fix it alone. I need your resources, Tony.
Trust fund. Trust fund.
Trust fund, baby. Money mark. Now, call him a money mark. That's going to piss him off more. 'Cause that's what he is. Like
Well,
I said.
that happens when the money is given to you. You're not a business person.
Right.
Like that. That's what I mean. That's why I wanted to know how he
Right.
made his money, because a lot of these people. And by the way, and a lot of these people that did legitimately make their money in a real business that go into sports or sports entertainment or whatever, they're such fanboys. They're too involved versus just letting the smart people they hire do their job.
Ding dong.
Yeah,
Nail on the fucking head.
but it
He
is.
doesn't have that.
He laid
runs-
it out. It's all connected, from gigs to TV revenues to sponsorships to everything.
How do we as fans know that and he doesn't?
Yeah.
Give me a break. Anyways, that will conclude my State of the Union on AEW. And there are many ways to fix it, right? There are so many ways to fix it. I love AEW. I don't like the Bucks, but I love AEW because it is or was at one point, a great alternative to WWE. And seeing what it's turned into, a glorified pissing contest, no. I have no interest in watching that. I hope you got it out of your system. Get it all out, because I never want to see shit like that on AEW ever again.
By the way, they gotta end this Bucks bit they're doing with the EVP thing.
Oh yeah, that's terrible.
It's brutal. It's hard to watch.
It is hard to watch. It's cringe.
Like I have 3 TVs in my man cave, so I have 3 things on at once almost all the time. And when they come on the screen, I have this button on a touchscreen remote that basically toggles the sound from which of the 3 TVs I'm listening to the sound on. As soon as the Bucks come on, the mute button is hit. As soon as they come on the screen, backstage, whatever. If they're wrestling, I might be watching. But if they're in the back or they're walking into no more. I don't need to see the Bucks coming into the arena anymore. I've had enough.
No, yeah. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Other than that, things are going great at AEW.
That's right.
Other than what
Yeah.
you just laid out in the last 35 minutes.
Did I capture it all, you think?
You know a lot more of the backstory than me. I hear these little petty shots they're throwing, but since I didn't know the whole story, now it's almost like more painful, because now it's
Yeah.
like, oh my, you're being like a teenage mean girl.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
Ugh.
Precisely what it's like. High school girls. Let's see. It's like a high school girls' locker room in there. Anyways, I am all done with my State of the Union address, and I want to shift away from negativity. By the way, Tony, if you're listening, if somebody has the balls to forward this to Tony Khan, so he listens to it, I would be appreciative, because I'll tell you what, if you don't think I could fix that shit, Tony, you give me a chance, and I will fucking hire it. I'll make it. I will make your life so fucking easy, you won't even know what to do. All you'll have time for is to give yourself a treasure bath in your richest bathroom. Anyways.
The beauty of the egocentric billionaire is that they have
Yeah.
don't take feedback. They
Yeah.
don't it doesn't even enter their head, because they just believe that they are doing it right.
They can't do anything right wrong. Yeah, precisely. I am so ready for this top 5 that I can't even stand it anymore. So, Kind Man, I want you to come through for us, buddy. Save the episode.
Yeah, so this was my favorite one I've done. But I have a couple of caveats here.
Okay.
How I did this, because the one thing about evolution and the human body over time and the bigger, faster, stronger athletes. You even brought it up in our Lost X7 WrestleMania episode that tables, ladders, and chairs match changed the way wrestling was, because of just the athleticism and the craziness and the, oh my gosh, like spears off 20-foot ladders and all this stuff. So the way I approached this list was really putting each person that is on this list in their own era.
Okay.
So I'm not comparing like a high flyer of today to a high flyer of the 80s. Like I'm letting them be in their era and how what were the top 5 people compared to their peers at their time, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think, for example, number 5 on my list could be number 1 if I just put him all time, even though he's not even that great a wrestler.
Right.
But so it's all in their own thing. And the other interesting thing about this list is my 1 through 4, all 4 people at one point were my number 1. And all 4 people at one point were my number 2, 3, 4. I toggled this. So I'll tell you, as soon as I get to 4, they're basically all ones. Like okay. I can't even decipher between them, which is one of the reasons why I spent a lot of time on this list, because I had the hardest time of going 4 to 1. But I'll start with number 5. And number 5 was a personal favorite of one of your favorite people that you mentioned earlier in this episode, Vince McMahon, and that is Ricochet.
Okay.
Ricochet he does things that I've never seen before. They have not figured out how to get him into any sort of big time storyline, although they're trying. They keep trying to get him in the mix and things, and in the ring he is wildly entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they can't get him. I mean, they could find a match for Ivar every week, but they can't find a fucking match for Ricochet. I don't know. I think Samantha Urban, her popularity helps him a ton. I think they love to show those videos of her announcing him winning and just the emotion and all that stuff. So I think we're going to see more of Ricochet coming up, but he is pretty much my only, well, I won't spoil anything, but he's my number 5.
Excellent pick.
And from here on in, I honestly believe that there really is no order. These are just my top 4 high flyers of all time. I'll put them in an order for you. And number 4, I'm gonna give it a 2-headed monster because they were partners and stablemates for a long time, and that would be Lita and Jeff Hardy.
Okay.
Lita and Jeff Hardy, not Lita Hardy, but Lita and Jeff Hardy. The X7 talking about Jeff Hardy taking a spear off a 20-foot ladder, and
right?
Just some of the things that dude did. And by the way, we talk about some of these people like Stone Cold and Cena, their character being the real life version of who they were. Jeff Hardy was one of those, like crazy, just out of his mind, crazy things, doing in and out of the ring. Tough story there with him, and everything he's been through. But as a high flyer, I put the 2 of them at number 4.
Very good. Can't argue so far.
Number 3, I'll go to back in my childhood, and kind of maybe this is incorrect, maybe this is factually incorrect, I don't know, but to me this is where high flying began in wrestling, and that would be Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Okay.
And seeing him go to the top of I mean, we've seen it a lot since, but had never seen anyone go to the top of a steel cage and splash somebody before Jimmy the Superfly Snuka did it.
Yeah.
And just the way that guy, he almost flew through the air slowly. That's what I remember as a kid. Like, it was almost in slow motion because he was so high and his body was so, still.
Yeah, he knew how to get hang time.
Yeah, but his body didn't move as he's going through this. Like you see these frog splashes where the body's going all over the place, and he just seems so majestic in flying through the air. And maybe that's partially just me as a kid, or I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'd be hard pressed in putting a high flyer list and not including kind of the person that created it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So my number two was probably the number one on most lists I looked up because I always try to check my work and see, what other people have, and that's Rey Mysterio. And Rey Mysterio also did stuff we had never seen before. Rey was probably the most creative of high flying. We're just in creating new moves. I mean, Ricochet is the one that spins the most time in the air, but Rey Mysterio did stuff we never even fucking thought of. I remember the first time I got, and this is back to the beginning of the ABW podcast, the first time I got a wrestling video game, the WWE wrestling video game, when I created my character, you got to choose you can either create your own kit or choose someone else's kit or whatever the way they move around the ring. And I right away I said, well, I want to do the 619, so I'm gonna Rey Mysterio's
moveset,
moveset. So yeah, Rey Mysterio. I didn't think there was any chance that I don't think I saw any list. There were some of these people on this list I saw on top 20s that weren't in it. But Rey Mysterio, I would tell you this, is I saw a lot of weird names. Go and looking at these other people's lists. But Rey Mysterio was probably the only person I saw on everyone's list, and everyone's top two or three. And my last, as I said, my top four are all ones in my book. I think there's nothing between them. But I gave him the number one spot because he was my favorite as a kid. So number one, so that was the tiebreaker, and it's Ricky the Dragon.
Oh yeah.
And this is one of those ones where I had to give the caveat at the beginning in their time.
Yeah.
I mean, today in wrestling, a high cross body would not be a finishing move.
No.
Which it was for Ricky the Dragon. But he was the first one, along with Snuka, that had me jumping off couches and basically hurting myself. In my rec room downstairs as a kid, and Snuka, and I think the first two wrestling figures I ever got were Snuka and Ricky the Dragon, because I just loved to watch them fly around and watch the athleticism they had in an era of wrestling that wasn't overly athletic.
Yeah.
It was either Andre the Giant, Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy, like these big, larger than life specimens, or it was the Hogan and the Piper personality and all that. But you get the sense that these guys, walked back into the back and started ripping heaters. Not like today's athlete. That's why I said it's these guys are doing this list. It was about the era they were in, and how they compared to the locker room at that time. So that is my five. I mean, a lot of people I wrote down. I mean, Eddie Guerrero,
Yeah.
Rob Van Dam. There's a group that you don't even think of anymore as high flyers, but they were. I mean,
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels,
Yep.
AJ Styles, Jericho.
Yeah.
At certain points of their career, they were. I mean, AJ Styles was an awesome high flyer.
Yes, he was.
At one point. Obviously, those three just brought up, but they've evolved. But as they get older. But yeah, there's so many. I actually, one thing I wrote down and wrote down more tongue in cheek and funny. Just when I'm brainstorming and writing things down, I wrote down Shane McMahon. He did some crazy flying shit. I mean, his was more fly. Like you talk about the grace of Jimmy Snuka. Well, Shane McMahon was the exact opposite, the most ungraceful flyer of all
Yeah.
time. But what that guy would do to himself off those, he did some
Yeah.
crazy.
He had decent spring, but
Yeah.
yeah, he had all
And
the
he was willing to do it.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was
He had all the
willing to do the
coordination of a
crazy-
limping ox, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
I
that
think
is
that's a
my list.
fantastic list, man. I don't know that my list wouldn't be too terribly different. I know that I would have to really sit down and think about it. I know for me, when I think of high flyers, I think of names like Tuchel Scorpio. His name comes to mind instantly. Is that a name familiar with you at all? No. He was a WCW wrestler for I don't know, about 5 years maybe, down there, and then he actually went to ECW and wrestled there, but Vince used him. He was the wrestler that Vince used, and his name was Flash Funk at the time. You may not remember him.
I think I do remember that.
Yeah. That's Too Cold Scorpio.
Okay.
That guy, I mean, for his time, what he was doing, miles ahead. He was the Ricochet of the early '90s.
Right.
He was fantastic. Some of the other, you mentioned RVD. I would have put him on my list, I think, just because he's so nimble. Although that really does kind of, is he a high flyer, or is he just nimble, or is he just a quick wrestler?
I look at him as like I think like I definitely had him. He probably was my number 6. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely call him a high flyer. The one thing I knocked him out for is I always hated the fact he hurt himself when he did it. Like he did his big splash, and then he'd be rolling around holding his belly.
Right.
It's like, okay, dude, it's your move. Like, figure it out.
That's why you call it the 5-star frog splash.
Yeah.
5-alarm chili. But
I look at him as a mixture of high flyer and mixed martial arts.
Yeah. You could say he's a striker.
Yeah.
But yeah. I would think, who else would I want to put up in there that maybe wouldn't have been on your list? I mean, I love Steamer. He's up there. I don't know if you would. This is going way back a ways, but I don't know if you would include tag teams like the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express,
Killer Bees.
Yeah, there you go.
They were some of them.
The Rockers, I suppose, would have been. Yep. But yeah, I mean, all these great tag teams that you could probably have put up in there as well. But I think you did a fantastic job. I like how you separated the fact that Jeff is not on the level that Matt is when it comes to high flying, because he's not. Matt is more of a technical guy, groundwork, and that's what makes him work so well. Groundwork, aerial assault. I digress. Anyways,
Matt is to Jeff is what Road Dogg is to DX.
Oh, he's just there to make things look pretty and squawk a lot. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
You know what kit or what move set I never put on one of my video game wrestlers?
What's that?
Fucking Road Dogg.
Road Dogg.
He didn't have any moves.
No, he had that shape jive or whatever he would do with his knees.
Yeah, and he punched.
And he punched people, yeah.
That's it. That's all he had.
And you know what's sad is he came from a wrestling family. He's a second-generation wrestler, for God's sakes. He should do better.
He didn't even learn the body slam while he was in DX.
Right. Hey, somebody send this video to Road Dogg too. Make sure he sees that shit.
That, by the way, that used to be my ringtone.
You didn't know?
know?
Yeah. Love that. I think everybody loved that. That was, for whatever reason, that's his claim to fame. That's his shtick. Like, people will always know him for that.
Oh, I love Road Dogg.
I don't know if I love Road Dogg.
I loved the DX, the whole shtick, all of them.
Yeah.
And he was the mouthpiece.
Yeah. Billy Gunn is the best one of them all nowadays.
Oh yeah.
He's out there. He's still kicking ass. He's so fucking great in that.
I mean, I can't imagine being in that good a shape at that age.
I know, and he's still over like Rover. God,
Yeah,
he's amazing. Billy Gunn amazes me. send this video to Billy Gunn too, so he can.
Yeah, and by the way, could we really just get Billy Gunn back with his sons for the trios thing?
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Let's just do that.
I love that Gun Club entrance so much. That entrance they for the trumpet music, and they're all standing in a triangle, and the camera goes around with a spotlight. Love that shit. Best entrance in wrestling, in my opinion. Best one. You heard it here first, folks. Anyways, is that it, or do we have anything else to take care of today, Kai Man?
I think that's it.
I think that's it too. And with that, and I see what you're doing there, holding on to that championship title. Try to stick with me one more time. I get it. We want to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us today. Please consider dropping an elbow on that subscribe button. And if you're feeling extra saucy, frog splash over to that little thumbs up emoji. We sure would appreciate it. And then please share our channel with people you think might enjoy this sort of thing, because it helps us grow and it gets you more content. That's right, you lucky motherfuckers. Once again, thank you all so much. We'll see you next time. Take care and fuck Red Dirt.
Have a nice day.